basically hit. They have headquarters in all of them. And again, we'll go over the price here in a second. So this is kind of a map just to show you that I don't want to keep you as long, but I can be here as long as you need me to on the flip side. So basically, the itinerary is cut a little bit short because I saved about $1,000 on the trip. So instead of 17 days, it's 15 days. So you kind of ignore this bottom part. We end in Rome, basically. But we don't see Pompeii or we don't go to Capri. It was basically 2 extra days and it was like $1,100 more. So I went, well, that's a lot of money. So let's just kind of hit what we do. So we're going to start in London. Basically, we will have an overnight flight from Omaha. We'll obviously have a layover, even though Omaha is technically, they say, an international airport. It's really not, at least not to Europe. There's no flights that go directly from Omaha to Europe. It depends. We won't know the flights until about probably a month and a half before, month and a half before. Sometimes they are very, very good where we only have one layover. Other times we have a couple layovers. Again, it just kind of depends. There is a chance our groups get split up, depending on how many students we have, where one group will take a flight and then the other group will take a flight and meet us there. That has never happened to me yet in all these trips that we've gone to. So we'll kind of see. Again, the last couple times we've gone over, they've been really, really good. We left basically in the mid-morning and we got early to Europe about like 9 in the morning the next day. And then we have a full day. There are other times where we don't get there until 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It just kind of depends on the flight. So it could be a full day, it could be a half a day when we get there. So we're gonna land in London first. They call it Europe at leisure. Again, it's not very leisurely, just because of how many places we hit and how quickly we go. But this is as leisurely as we get. And the reason why I say that is there's been trips where you basically have one night somewhere and you're on to the next city. You have one night somewhere and you're on to the next city. Here, we have 3 nights in London, 3 nights in Paris, a couple nights in Switzerland, a couple nights in Florence, and then we end in Rome for 3 or 4 nights. So that's as leisurely as it gets. So again, this is kind of how it looks, just to throw it out there. You see the big map, and this is kind of your day-to-day, just to give you an idea, and I'll kind of point out all the places we go. So our overnight to England, I don't know what time we'll get there, but basically when we get there, they don't have a whole lot of pre-planned stuff because they don't know if you're getting there early in the morning or later in the afternoon. So there's nothing really official guided that first day. We meet our tour director at the airport. This tour director will be with us for the entire trip. He is obviously multilingual. He's the one that is able to get us checked into all of our hotels, no matter what country we're in. He's the one that is able to get us, tickets on the Eurostar when we leave from London and go under the English Channel to Paris on the train. He's the one that makes sure we have our tickets to get into the Louvre and gets us lined up. So that's the other cool part about this trip, is you don't have to worry about anything. And I don't have to worry about anything in terms of getting us where we need to be because our tour director is able to do that. And that's the other nice thing about this trip, because if you were to go over to Europe on a family trip, that's a lot of planning and that's a lot of headache. Like, okay, we have to be here. How do we get tickets to the Colosseum? Like, I don't speak Italian, all this stuff. So you don't have to worry about any of that. Basically, it's like, okay, our tour director will say you need to be up at breakfast at this time and the bus is leaving at this time, and off we go. So that is very, very nice. So our first day in London, we kind of meet our tour director. We may or may not go to the hotel when we first get there. That's the other thing about this trip. Many times when we travel, we don't get to the hotel till that night. If we travel from, France to Switzerland, we may not get to the hotel later that night. We'll get into whatever city we're going to and we will tour it. So basically, it's a lot of moving and a lot of, just go, 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 go. One thing I do want to point out, this is not a vacation. If you think that it's a relaxing vacation, it is not. So if that's something that you're not ready for, I just always want to warn the students, we are basically getting up early in the morning and we are basically out till late at night. It's not relaxing. If it's bad weather and it's raining, we're not just hanging out in the hotel going, well, I guess we're not going to go out. We're going in the rain, okay? We have one day to see, the Louvre, or we see Versailles and go through the gardens of Versailles. If it's raining, it's raining, okay? We've been very lucky in all my trips. I say that I bring the Oma Dome with me, and it literally hardly ever rains. I'm not making that up. It's amazing. We call it the Bowker Dome. The tour director nicknamed it that last year. I've been to London every single trip, and it has rained probably 3 times. I'm talking 3 days, and that's probably about 18 days in London that I've been to London. It always rains in London, not when we're there. So fingers crossed. So that first day, we'll basically get to walk around London with our tour director. And then the second or third day, but the second day in London, we take our guided tour of London. Could be a bus tour, could be a walking tour, could be a combination of the two. After that guided tour, we actually get to go into the Tower of London. That's the other cool thing about this Europe trip. The history is so old, and it's very, very neat. And again, since I'm a history teacher, I probably appreciate it more than a lot of people. But I don't know if anyone's ever been to Washington, D.C., or if you guys went on the Washington, D.C. trip when you were in middle school. That's very cool. But Jamestown was 1600, okay? The Tower of London was built in the year 1088, okay? So add another 600 years earlier, and we're going to basically see that. William the Conqueror built that in 1088. When we get to Rome, the Colosseum was built 2,000 years ago, okay? That's history, and that's what I think is so, so cool. Speaking of old things that we see, on the last day in England, we go and see Stonehenge. That's like, I don't know, about 7,000 years old, okay? That's old, okay, and that's cool. I didn't know what that would be like. I went on this exact same tour 2 years ago. Stonehenge was so, so, so cool, okay? You think, oh, it's a pile of rocks. Are we really spending the day out there? Well, you're not spending the whole day, but you're spending probably an hour or so. Way, way cool. You see how those Neolithic people live. And then we go to Salisbury, a town in London right outside of Stonehenge, and we see one of the original copies of the Magna Carta. Again, that's an incredibly old document. The Declaration of Independence is way cool, okay? The Magna Carta was written like, 500 years before the Declaration of Independence. So that's England, very, very quickly. The next morning, we will take the train from London to Paris, okay? That's about a 3-hour train ride. We go about, I would say, 240 miles an hour or so to get to Paris. When we get to Paris, we get to go see the Louvre Museum, which is the largest art museum in the world. Very, very cool. Of course, you want to go take a picture of the Mona Lisa, but you could spend probably a week and a half in the Louvre and still not see everything. We get a few hours, okay? And then that next day, we take a guided tour of Paris. That's where we will see the Eiffel Tower, the Arc de Triomphe, the plaza, the Concorde Plaza, where all the people got their heads cut off during the French Revolution. So again, this is the world history teacher and me really thinking this is so, so cool. So that's through day 6, okay? There's London, there's us in front of the Tower of London. That was back in 2018. We might have the opportunity to go up in the London Eye, which is that huge, huge Ferris wheel that you can see the entire city. It would cost extra. It's an extra thing that sometimes the tour director can set up if we have time. If you sign up and that is something available, I'll kind of gauge interest. That could be something you could do, okay? I have had students go up there in the past, and they said it was pretty neat, okay? There's Stonehenge, and that's them doing their best interpretation of Stonehenge. That was, again, the trip 2 years ago. Again, really, really cool. And then when we get to Paris, there's the Arc de Triomphe, built by Napoleon after he conquered Europe, and of course the Eiffel Tower, which you all know. Again, all the sites. So we see the Eiffel Tower on day 7. Those females that are going visit the perfume factory. Of course, Paris known for fashion and perfume. The other nice thing about stopping there is when it's very, very hot, it's air conditioned, and it has a free bathroom. I'm gonna stress free bathroom because again, Europe is a culture shock, okay? Bathrooms you have to pay for. It's not like you just go to the Quickie Mart and say, can I use the bathroom? You don't even ask, you just go in across the street at Hy-Vee Gas and use the bathroom. You basically have to pay to use the bathroom unless you buy something. Then they'll let you use the bathroom, okay? So you will get used to that very quick, okay? Whenever we stop to eat, use the bathroom, because if you are buying food for lunch or dinner, you can use their bathroom, okay? Otherwise, you can't. There's no places to stop for the bathroom. So it's weird. It's very European. That's what they do. The other thing about Europe that I will mention is they don't believe in ice in their drinks, okay? That's bizarre to me. When you get back and you order some ice water, it's the greatest thing you've ever seen in your life. And when you can go to the bathroom for free, it's wonderful. Not to rip on Europe, because I'm trying to sell this trip, but it is a little weird, okay? So, the next day we will travel to Switzerland. Once we get to Paris, we are on a chartered bus the entire time. We will go from city to city on a bus. We may share the bus with another group if we do not have a big enough group to fill our bus. We've done that in the past. Last year we had a very, very small group from California. There were 20 of us and there were 6 of them, okay? There was another time, we're usually the alpha group in terms of groups. When I had the group of 36, obviously we had our own bus. When I had the group of 26, we had our own bus, but we had a group of 24 one year, and there was a group of 6, and there was a group of 10. So there were 3 groups sharing the bus. So we're basically on the bus the entire trip. Some of these drives from city to city can be long. You will love the drives because that is a day where you can relax and take a nap, because we're always just going, going, going. It's like, oh, we have a long trip through the Swiss Alps today. Lovely, I am going to sleep. I would recommend not sleeping because the scenery is very, very nice, but I recommend that, and I always look around and the students are zonked out because they are exhausted, okay? I usually get asked this question as I'm kind of breaking away from our itinerary. They are long days. I would say typically you've got to be up probably around 6:30 to 7 a.m. Not awful early, but probably earlier than you are used to in the summer, okay? You can skip breakfast if you want, but I wouldn't recommend that because breakfast is free. And, basically you can, fuel up for the day. I'll talk more about price though as well. So we're usually on the road between 7 and 8 every morning, okay? So just kind of keep that in mind in terms of kind of what the days look like. Switzerland is always a highlight. When we get to Switzerland, we get to see the city of Lucerne. It's on Lake Lucerne. Very, very pretty. This is when it slows down a little bit for us after hitting London and Paris, 2 very, very large world capitals. We spend a half a day in Lucerne, walking around Lucerne. You kind of have some free time in Lucerne. I'll talk more about free time once we get through the itinerary. And then half the day we actually go up into the mountains in the Swiss Alps. Hopefully it's a sunny day that day so you can see everything. Last year we had a terribly cloudy day when we were up there and didn't get to see much. Once we got down to Lucerne the second half of the day, the sun kind of broke out and it was a very, very nice day in Lucerne, okay? So that is country 3, Switzerland. And then we're on to our last country, that is Italy. Florence, the birthplace of the Renaissance, beautiful city. We get to spend half the day touring it with a professional tour guide, and then you kind of have free time in the afternoon to explore on your own. And then we will basically take a trip to Rome. On the way to Rome, we stop in the town of Assisi, St. Francis of Assisi. Those that are Catholic probably know about him. Assisi is this very cool medieval town in the hills of Italy. It's what you would think of when you think of like Tuscany, walking through cobblestone streets. It's usually a highlight as well. So that's kind of a cool little stop on our way to Rome, okay? There's Switzerland, Lucerne on the left. This was actually from our hotel balcony a few years ago. Not a bad deal when you go out on your balcony in the morning and you see Lake Lucerne in the mountains there. So very, very cool. One of the mountains we went up was Mount Rigi. Another one is Mount Pilatus. It just depends on where we're staying in Switzerland, depending on which mountain we go up. So that's Switzerland. Very, very pretty, okay? I mentioned Florence. Michelangelo's David is on display in Florence. Very, very cool. It would cost you a little bit extra to get into that museum, but it's very, very worth it just to see that statue. Again, it's kind of breathtaking. You've seen pictures of it before, but when you're actually in there, it's like, whoa, that is very, very neat. The Duomo, one of my favorite buildings ever when I teach world history. There's the bell tower on the left. I've been to the top. You've got to make reservations way beforehand to go up there, but also very, very cool, okay? So St. Francis of Assisi, so we have Assisi, and then we get to Rome, okay? When we get to Rome, you see the Colosseum, where the gladiators fought, okay? Again, it was built 2,000 years ago. Trevi Fountain, you might have heard of that, okay? Very, very popular tourist site. The Roman Forum, where the government of Rome and the emperors basically lived and did business. And then the very last day, we go in the Vatican, okay? And we get to see the Sistine Chapel. Got, again, the ceiling painted by Michelangelo. And then the largest church in the world, St. Peter's Basilica. Very, very awe-inspiring, okay? Very, very cool. And then the last day, we fly home. So, again, that's a lot of stuff. And I forgot one thing, sorry. When we are in Paris, it's not up there, but we do go see Versailles, the Palace of Versailles. I don't know how I could forget that, probably because it wasn't up there. I made sure that's part of the itinerary. That's where Louis XIV lived, and Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette lived before they were ripped out of there during the French Revolution. Half the day, or half the tour, we're touring inside the palace. The other half, you get to walk through the gardens. Very, very beautiful, okay? All right. Okay, so what all is included? And again, I'll go over the price here in a second. Round trip airfare is included. All the hotels are included. Breakfast and dinner is included, okay? You are responsible for lunch every day, okay? That's the one thing you're responsible for. Typically in lunch, I allow the students, as long as they're in groups, to go out and find a place to eat. That would be like if you were down at the old market, you're looking for a place to eat, except you're thousands of miles away in another country and on another continent, okay? That's the reason why I only take graduating seniors on this trip. You do have independence on this trip as long as you are not, messing up, okay? Following the rules, being back when you're supposed to be back. Again, you're not exploring out at night. This is during the day, lots and lots of people, lots and lots of tourists. But yeah, you have that independence to go, okay? So, lunch is on you. I have had students, again, I mentioned this to some of my friends, and they thought it was kind of genius. I did too. A lot of the breakfasts are kind of continental breakfasts where you have cereals and you have yogurt, but you also have like meats and cheeses. And I had a girl back in 2019, I'll never forget it. Kate was a little frugal, or she just did not have a whole lot of money after going on this trip. She made lunch every morning with basically ham and cheese with a sandwich, put it in a baggie. She never paid for lunch. So she never paid for any food on basically the whole trip. So that's something to consider as well, okay? But you do get breakfast and dinner, okay? Dinner, the thing about dinner is it's what they are serving us is what you get. You do not order on a menu. That's kind of the bad part about the group travel. EF obviously needs to try to cut costs somewhere. So basically it's everyone's going to eat the same thing. You typically get an appetizer and you get a meal and you get a dessert. But again, you're not ordering from the menu. Basically, it's what you get. If you are a vegetarian or lactose intolerant or have any allergies, I just need to know that beforehand so they can set up basically an alternative meal for you that other people will not be eating, because you need to eat, obviously, dinner. Hotels are all taken care of. I will also say the hotels are not awful, but they're not 4-star hotels. Again, this is EF trying to cut corners, okay? You're gonna have your own bathroom, so it's not like a hostel or anything like that. You're not basically, sharing bathrooms with, I don't know, some Frenchman that's freaking walking across the country or whatever, but you do get your own bathrooms. You're basically gonna be sharing with same gender people on the trip. And if you do sign up, I'll kind of ask, who do you want a room with, who do you not want a room with? It's like a big Rubik's Cube puzzle that I have to put together to try to get everyone together on that. It could be anywhere, depending on the hotels we're staying in, 4 to a room. It could be 3 to a room. It could be 2 to a room, okay? And it may change because we go to a lot of different hotels and we're going from city to city. So that's included. And again, I can answer more questions about that if you have them. I mentioned the bus. Basically, once we get to Paris, we're on the bus the whole time. We'll have the same bus driver the entire time. The local guides, expert local guides, we'll have a local guide in London. We'll have a local guide probably at Stonehenge. We'll have a local guide at Paris. We'll have a local guide at Versailles. We'll have a local guide at Assisi. We'll have a local guide in Florence. We'll have a local guide in Rome at the Colosseum, one for the Forum, and one for the Vatican. So it's going to be about 9 or 10 local guides when we go on our guided tours, okay? And then we obviously get into all those different places that I mentioned. That's included in the price as well, okay? So what are you responsible for? Obviously, you need a passport, okay? If this is something you are thinking about doing and you don't have a passport yet, get on that, okay? Because EF will need those passport information. You'll enter it through your account on the website once you do sign up. They will need that once they start booking flights basically in February, okay? So if you're thinking about doing it and don't have a passport yet, get on that, because you might have heard horror stories, and I've had to deal with it. Sometimes it takes a long time for passports to process, okay? If you do it, this month or next month, you're probably safe, but like I said, sometimes it takes 2 or 3 months. You need to make sure that passport is valid at least 6 months after we get back. That's just a rule that they have. So basically your passport needs to be valid through December of 2025. Because we're basically in June. I'll talk about the dates in a second as well. On this trip, you don't have to worry about baggage fees. They will allow a checked bag and a carry-on bag. We check bags just because 15 days in Europe, it would be very hard, I think, to do a carry-on for 15 days. I've had students, I haven't really had any students try. I'm in a Facebook group with other tour leaders around the country, and they say, oh, I'll never check a bag because it gets lost. I get it, okay, but I just don't know how you're able to pack for 15 days worth in a carry-on. So I check a bag, and I have a carry-on as well. There is one added price. I want to be very transparent. Basically, the local guides and our tour director and even our bus driver work on tips. So basically the tip amount is going to be added to the price when we get to the price in a second. It's $175. I collect that before we leave at our departure meeting in May, so you don't have to worry about it. I hold on to that, and I'm the one that deals with handing out those tips every time we have a local guide. At the end of the trip, give the tour director the big amount of money, because basically we are, he's our guy that takes us through the entire thing. And then if you have any snacks or lunches as well, and souvenirs, obviously, also. Debit cards work everywhere, okay? I always get asked, should I exchange money for, euros or Swiss francs or pounds. Like, we have 3 different currencies on this trip, okay? England has the pound. They're separate from the EU. They don't have the euros. Switzerland is separate from the rest of Europe. They have the Swiss francs, although they will take euros, but they'll jack up the price on the euros on the exchange rate. And then we have the euros in obviously France and Italy. You can do that ahead of time if you have a pretty good deal with your bank, but debit cards work, credit cards work, plastic works over there, and it's a lot easier, I think, than holding on to cash. Yes?
What about to use the restroom?
What's that?
What about to use the
Restroom, yeah, usually the debit cards work, but sometimes they'll need, coins as well when we stop. So you might want to have maybe a little bit, like, I wait till I get there, and I usually, when I'm in England, I'll maybe take, 60 pounds out. I can make that last actually a couple days. I'm like Kate, the girl that packs the lunch in the morning at breakfast. I can make that money last. So a little bit extra spending, that's a good question, because sometimes you're gonna need coins on those bathrooms. And if not, someone probably can loan you something as well, one of the other classmates or me or one of the other chaperones, okay? Again, I mentioned the passport. It says December there just because I kind of really want to reiterate that, but they'll need that for sure by the end of January, so you have an extra month on there. I mentioned we might be with group travel, we might not, depends on how many kids we have. Basically, we may be sharing a bus. We'll be with that group. They'll be on the same itinerary as us the whole time. We'll stay in the same hotels with them. We'll take the guides with them. We'll take the tours with them. And again, maybe we don't have it. It's been 50-50 with me. I've had big enough groups where we don't share a bus. I've had small enough groups where we do. So half the time I've had my own bus, which is nice because you have a little more flexibility. Like, hey, can we stop here on the way to such and such? 2 years ago, we stopped in Lake Como, which is in Italy, very, very pretty. We were able to do that because we didn't have another group with us. It was on the way to Switzerland. We stopped there for lunch. Very, very cool, okay? Here's our support people. I'm not really gonna get into that. They do have a travel support team, but I will make sure things go well if our tour director doesn't make things go well. If we have any things, I'm the one in contact with them. This is, again, something you guys don't have to worry about, but we are supported very, very well with EF because they have offices over there, so it's not like a time difference between us and the United States as well, okay? Part of the price, the global travel protection is included. You can get rid of that. That is basically just travel insurance that they include. You can take a look at that on the website once you get to the website. You can take that off and use your own. That is kind of up to you. They have different types of travel insurance that they offer, but that's not something you don't. Right now, that global travel protection is included in the price, but I'm pretty sure if you have your own, you can take that off and make the trip a little more affordable. So that's something that you can basically decide on. Okay, so if you kind of take a look at, this is kind of how it's broken up. Basically, the total price is $5,889 or 99. I don't know if that's a typo or not. But basically, after the enrollment, they always do this after an enrollment meeting because they want to get you excited to go on the trip. If you enroll in the next week, it says September 24th, today's the 17th, they'll take $200 off the price, so the price is $5,689, okay? And if you're considering it, don't wait. Do it. It saves you $200. That basically covers your tip money if you want to look at it that way. So again, that's kind of how it's broken down. You do not have to pay for it all at once. They will work with you with installments and things like that. You can either, pay bi-monthly or monthly, but that's again through the account that you sign up for, okay? And again, there's kind of the website if you want to take a picture of that with the tour number, and that'll take you to the enrollment page. I know I didn't cover up as much as I probably should have because I appreciate your time. I know your time is valuable. But what questions you have for me that I did not hit on? I tried to hit on a lot. Yes?
Will they be staying with other students from the Lake West
That's a great question. If we are with another group, there might be a night where you are roomed with someone from the other group. And again, it would only be for one night, because that sometimes does happen, and it has happened, and that's a good question. I wouldn't make that same person keep doing that. Someone else would have to, take the bullet, so to speak, and stay with the other group. But it has happened a few times, yes. So if the numbers don't quite line up, that might happen. Great question. What else do you have for me?
Are you solely the only person doing this?
That's a great question. Basically, the teacher or chaperone to student ratio is 6 students for every 1 chaperone. Okay. So basically, I have a long line of teachers that like to go on this trip and want to go on this trip. So right now, I have 1 chaperone signed up, because I had mentioned that we have 16 right now. If we get 2 more, that will put in another chaperone, which I have someone ready. Right now, it's Mrs. Stillwell. She's a math teacher here at Northwest. She's the other chaperone right now. If we get 2 more, Mr. Kruger is next in line. He will be going as well. So that's kind of where we're at with chaperones, but that is a good question, yes.
Does the chaperone, are they in charge of the same students for the whole trip?
That's a good question. We don't really do it that way in terms of, because we're always together basically. But what I do with our chaperones is, you have 6 students that you have to make sure every morning are there and ready for the bus. So you've got to basically take attendance. And then when we, need to meet and go somewhere, like, okay, we break for lunch, we're meeting at this spot at this time, they're in charge of making sure that they're taking attendance. So in terms of in charge of them, it's not really in charge, but they're responsible that they're there at every meeting point. When we get on, if we ever take the subway, we've taken subways, we've taken the tube in London to go from place to place before, the metro in Paris, like, okay, we're off, let's take roll when we get off the subway, when we get on the subway, etc. So yeah, good question. In terms of in charge, not really, but in terms of is everyone here before we leave? Haven't lost anyone yet, so rest assured. So far, so good. What else?
Does insurance cover pandemics?
That is a good question. I know that this was a big point back when it happened, and I was the go-between, and that's when no one could go out in public, and it put a few gray hairs on my head. They eventually got everything back except for like $500 out of the $5,000, $6,000. I don't know where that stands right now with that. That's something you would have to check through the website and ask their help team. That's another good question. Okay. What else? Yeah.
Heard something about pickpocketing in Paris.
Yes, pickpockets are alive and well in Europe. You need to be very, very careful. There are a few of you that were in my world history class, and I mentioned that I almost was a victim of pickpocketing my first year. I was the old dumb tourist, young at heart. And I almost got it in the metro. It was in my front pocket, and I felt the hand on it, and I smashed it down, and before I could do anything, he was moving off the subway. It was a very surreal moment. No one's been pickpocketed yet. You've got to be very vigilant. They have all sorts of tricks. They try to distract you when you're in front of some of the monuments. Everyone's taking a picture of the Eiffel Tower, and they're trying to talk to you, and their friends behind you trying to take from you. So you got to be very aware. They're out there. And when they see a big group of high school kids, that's like, that's the dream of the pickpockets in Paris and Rome and London, like jackpot. That's what they're thinking. Okay. Yeah.
Talk about how much cash these students should bring with them.
That's another good question. That just kind of depends. I've had kids, spend a lot and buy a lot of souvenirs, but you can do it very, very affordable. It just kind of depends. It depends on how much souvenirs. I would say typically lunches are very similar to going out to lunch here, okay, when you're going to restaurants. So keep that in mind. Like you could do it for, again, the euro, it's pretty even right now with the American dollar actually. Like we've had trips where, you know, you're really getting crushed on the exchange rate. It's fairly even, at least the last trip it was. So you could probably get a good meal, you know, 20 euros, okay? So, you know, add that up. Again, we have 2 travel days in those 15 days, you know, where you might want to grab a bite or something at the airport or something like that, but like those are 2 less days where you have lunches. So in reality, 13 days over there, 13 lunches on the trip. I would say the lunches prices are going to be very comparable to a lunch you would get here in the United States. What else? Don't be shy.
Cell phones are primary or?
Yeah, that's another good question. You have to check with your cell carrier. I'm on T-Mobile, and T-Mobile's not great over here. Boy, it is beautiful over in Europe. I don't have to pay for anything. Text messages are free. Data is free. And I'm like live tweeting and posting on Instagram the whole time, trying to get people, the kids that are going to be seniors, to pay attention. And I never have any issues. The only thing I would have to pay for is if I actually made a call. And I don't like talking to people, so I never make phone calls at all. I don't like people that much, which is very ironic. So it does not cost me much of anything with phones. But that's something you have to check, because I think all cell phone carriers are different. But that's another good question. But they're going to work. Now, do you have to buy an international plan or not? Perhaps. If you're, I don't know what Verizon is. I don't know, you know, what AT&T is. Okay. Any others? Yeah.
Kind of related to that, are there special chargers, like plugs?
Yes, another good question. Yeah, if you do sign up when we have our departure meeting in May, I kind of go over all that. You're going to need basically 2 different chargers to charge, because our outlets do not equate. You're going to need one for England, which is different than everything. And then the European one in France, Switzerland, and Italy is the same one. So yeah, you're going to need a converter, and you're going to need one to charge your phone for sure for that. So yeah, that's something that we'll talk about if you do end up signing up in May, what exactly you need. But yeah, that's a good question, because you are going to need one of those for sure. Yeah.
Do they use hotel laundry?
They typically do not have laundry rooms that they do. So we do not usually have, they don't usually, the hotels we stay in, like I said, they usually don't have laundry rooms. London, maybe. Paris, maybe, but the other places, not really. I would pack for 15 clean outfits and use them all. The laundry you would be doing is in a hotel sink in your bathroom, okay? And we don't really have time, to be honest with you, as well. Like, you know, we get there late at night. Sometimes it's a long day. We don't get back until 9 o'clock at night. The last thing these kids want to do probably is to do laundry. They want to go to bed because they're pretty exhausted. That's always my master plan, to exhaust the heck out of your kids, because then they're not getting into trouble or anything. In terms of the hotels, I go to bed when we get there. I am tired. I'm getting too old to be staying up late. So I tell the kids, you're not leaving the hotel. If I find out you do, you're on the next flight home. Do not break curfew, okay? I've had to send one person home in my 5-6 trips. So I know how to do it, so be warned. You know, if you break rules, and I have very, very strict guidelines and expectations, you know, if you leave the hotel, you're going home the next day. And students, try explaining that to mom and dad when the next available one-way ticket is the one you're taking, and that you're paying for that, or your parents are. I'm guessing that's probably about a $900 flight home, and if that's day 2 of 15, that's rough. That's rough. okay? Do not break the rules. I usually get this question, no one's asked it, I don't know if anyone's thought about it. You guys are all gonna be 17 or 18 when you are on this trip. That is the legal drinking age over in Europe, okay? And I get this question, are kids allowed to drink? Technically, yes, they are, okay? Now, what happens is, if you do sign up, basically we have a behavior contract that I have mom and dad sign and the student signs. One, mom and dad say, yes, I'm gonna allow them to drink. Now, when we say this is not a green light to get wasted or blitzed or drunk. That is not what this is all about. If you would like to have a glass of wine at dinner or at lunch, or a glass of beer at dinner or at lunch, yes, that is what we are talking about by having a drink, okay? Getting drunk will send you home, okay? Doing things against, my rules will send you home. So you're not to get drunk, you're not to do stupid things like that. So there's a lot of responsibility on this trip, but also, in 3 months, a lot of you are gonna be on your own in college, and even though it's not legal in the United States, you'll be able to get your hands on alcohol. So again, if the parents say it's okay, I will pay attention. If the parents say no, I will make sure that when we're at meals, they're not ordering alcohol. Many times they go off on their own to lunch. I'm not with them. They're able to do that, okay? I'm assuming they're gonna follow the rules, but if I don't see it, I don't know, because I'm not with them. They're able to buy it. They don't need an adult to buy the alcohol. So, I have not had issues with alcohol. Okay, I will tell you that. Kids realize this is a big time investment. Okay, it's almost $6,000. And again, it's a very, very cool trip with a lot of cool experiences. The kids I've had on these trips, I think, realize the opportunity that mom and dad are giving you, and so they're not messing it up, okay? The person I sent back was not because of alcohol, okay, thankfully, okay? So I've not had those issues. Let's hope that continues, okay? Yeah.
In regards to the passports, do you collect them and keep them, or do the kids keep them?
That's another great question. I do not collect them, okay? I've had differing opinions on if I should or not. Again, this is another responsibility thing, and one of the reasons, but every morning I basically do a passport check, okay? When we leave in the morning, get out your passports physically, let me see them, okay? And so we at least know if we lost them at that point, we have a day where we lost them, not that really matters, but every morning I do check, especially when we're leaving a city and going to another city, because we're not coming back, okay? So you gotta be extra careful about that and double check the hotel room, they don't leave anything behind. The reason why I don't collect them is, let's say I get my bag stolen. All of a sudden, it's a lot more difficult to get 25 passports from the embassy than one. And so basically the kids will have them the whole time. I would keep them in someplace very, very safe. But yeah, the kids are responsible for their passports. Again, I've never had, I don't know if that's wood, that happen as well, but I've heard stories where people that have gone this trip and people that have led this trip have had that happen, where they've misplaced it or they've gotten it stolen. And then that's a day where I would take that student while they're doing whatever, we're going to the embassy, we're getting a temporary one. The one thing I do, if you do sign up, I have everyone make a colored copy of it, and I keep a colored copy of it with me, and that, I'm told, makes it a lot easier to process a temporary passport at the embassy, so we can catch up with the group very, very quickly. So I'll have a copy on me in case we need it, but I do not hold on to those passports. The kids are responsible for their passports. Very, very good question.
What else happens at that May meeting? Like what?
The May meeting, that's when I will collect basically that behavior contract that I mentioned. I will collect the roommate preferences, any allergies that they have, any meds that they're taking, things like that. We're gonna go over the flights. we're gonna go over the hotels, and everyone gets a backpack from EF that they can take or they don't need to take. It's on them, and then we're on our way. So we'll go over all of the last minute, what time we're leaving, where do we have to be in Omaha, on what day and what time. I thought I had the date up there. I didn't see the date. Gosh, we don't have the date. Give me 1 second. Any other questions while I'm trying to find the dates? Because the dates are not completely set yet. I got it right here. The earliest we will go is May 28th. That is the Wednesday after Memorial Day. I told them there's no way in heck that I'm traveling on Memorial Day. That would be a gong show. Okay, that would be really, really bad. Here's our window. I requested May 31st to June 14th, okay? Again, they have a window to get flights, so the earliest we could leave is May 28th. Again, I think that is about a week and a half after graduation, I believe. I can't remember what day. Do you guys know what day graduation ceremony is?
Memorial Day.
Is it that Saturday of Memorial Day weekend? So it'll be the earliest we would go is the Wednesday after you graduate. That's the earliest we could go. I requested 31st to the 14th. The latest we could return, again, if you push it forward, so we're leaving basically on June 2nd, the latest we would get back is the 17th. So if you have things going on in the summer, the reason why I do it right away is because, again, you graduate and we're going, and then you have the rest of the summer, get ready for college or get ready for your job or whatever you're gonna do. But we will not know the official date until that pre-departure meeting in May, okay? But that at least gives you an idea of what we're talking about, okay? Yeah. Again, you're gonna be responsible for your medications. I would obviously like to know that. I'm glad you brought that up. There was one year where I had a girl whose parents said, okay, she has had seizures in the past, but she hasn't had one in about 3 or 4 years. We have the right meds and everything. And she said, would you be comfortable doing that? And I said yes. I kind of regret it now because with about a week left, she had her meds stolen from her suitcase at the hotel. And it was a very stressful week because I called mom and dad and I basically said, you know, what if we don't get the right meds? I mean, we have to travel to Paris by bus in the morning. You know, what if the pharmacies don't have the actual meds? What are the odds she's gonna have a seizure? And mom's answer was 98% she'll have a seizure. And it's like, I do not like those odds. It was stressful. I did get her home, but we had some issues. So hopefully no one has seizures. I would have to really kind of maybe nix that just because of what I had to go through. And hindsight's 2020. I should have kept extras on me, so if her meds were taken, well, that's easy to say now. But we had quite the ordeal, 2 days in Paris and 2 days in London. And there was a seizure that happened during the trip. It was when we were on our way back into the United States. So yeah, that was rough. So, but meds, you know, I've had people with, you know, EpiPens and things like that, allergies, and, you know, you're kind of in charge of those. Okay, any other questions? Yeah.
Belongings have been stolen, is that common?
Say that again?
Things were taken from, their belongings were taken from their hotel room?
Yeah.
Is that common, or is that?
No, it's never happened before. I think what happened is whoever was cleaning the room thought they hit the jackpot and they were gonna have a party with a bunch of pills. And I'm guessing the seizure pills did not have the effect that they thought it would have. We think that's what happened. We don't know. I don't think she lost them, because what happened was, it's like when you have those weekly pill boxes where you have, basically put for every day, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Well, then she had the rest of them in her suitcase. Well, she ended up done with the week and she's refilling it and there was none left. So we don't know when it happened. We assume that's what it was, but we're not sure. Not common at all. Yeah, but that's a good question. Yeah.
Do you send out the people going so that they can figure out who?
Yes, once you sign up, I will send out a list like, hey, who do you want to room with? And more importantly, who do you not want to room with? I'll try my best to at least put you with someone you want to room with, but I will make sure that you're not rooming with someone you don't want to be with, because, you know, that's not fun. Like if you don't get along with someone, you know, you don't want to be in the same room with them. So again, it's a Rubik's Cube, but yeah, they will know who's going, so they can basically say, I want a room with, you know, these people, and I'll try to get them with all of them, but if I can, at least one of them, and whoever they don't want to, I'll make sure that doesn't happen. Yeah, another good question. What else for me? Again, I can be here as long as you need, but if you need to go somewhere, you don't need to be just sitting here politely as well. But I'm not trying to push you out, but I'm here for as long as you need. Again, I appreciate you coming. If you have any other questions, you can email me, or if you want to stick around and ask, I'm here. I hope you consider it. It is a very, very cool trip. If any of the students have talked to any kids that have taken it before, I'm guessing they're probably recommending it. They usually have a very, very good time. It's a neat deal. It's a neat experience for sure. So, thank you.